Welcome to Dead Bedroom Revival Podcast. My name is Corey, your host, and I'm really excited to be making this episode because there's one thing that you need in your relationship that you're not doing, but will actually give you at least 2 or 3 more times of passionate encounters with your partner, guaranteed. And that is having the ability to fight within the relationship. I think one of the misconception about being in a relationship is, they say happy wife, happy life. And it's one of those most terrible advices that anybody can ever take, because when you stand your ground, as long as you're not belittling the other person or insulting or really being cruel, then you still have a chance where you should be fighting. And when I say fighting, it sounds more ridiculous than it, but it's one of those things that you have to be able to get your points across, and your core beliefs and what you believe in should also come to the table. And this is what I'm trying to say. And most people that will distort their beliefs, they'll distort the point of views to suit the other person. And sometimes we do this because we don't want to upset the other person. We figure that if we upset the other person, then they might withhold sex. And usually when you sort of get into that dynamic and that becomes the issue, it's very hard to turn it back, because she now knows that she can get her way. And if for whatever reason, if you raise your kind of like this game when you go to the arcade, where there's like these crocodiles that come out, and then you got the person's got a hammer and is hitting every crocodile that comes out. It's just that thing there where whenever you pop your head out and try and say something, bang, you can't say anything. So it builds a lot of frustration within yourself. It takes away a lot of your confidence, and it starts spilling into parts of your relationship. So even, if you were having sex for whatever reason, you become weirdly attentive to the wrong things. So if for whatever reason, if she moved a certain way or said something, then you're reacting to it as though something you've done wrong, and you get into your head and you're never in the present. And then it becomes a very bad experience for both of you in terms of sexually, because you're just so responsive. So I would like to give you examples of this. And one example of this is, I remember once I went to judo, and the first thing that the trainer trained us, he started throwing us onto these things. I said, I'm going to do this with you. So you can imagine this is my first time. He puts his assistant over there, holds him by the collar, and he just slams him onto the floor. I didn't realize, but what they do is that when they do get thrown, you're supposed to slap your hand. So when he fell, it sounded so terrible. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, why would you go and teach me how to be slammed onto the floor? And then he said, well, if I don't teach you how to fall, you end up hurting yourself. So I have to teach you how to fall. And this is one of the things that you have to learn. And it was very uncomfortable lesson, and it was an uncomfortable experience. But when I'm able to learn how to be thrown and fall, it means that I've got the ability to be able to put up opposition and fight, and then be part of the fight. So, and what I'm trying to put across here is that there is certain skills to actually fighting and getting your point across. Usually we fail to do this because we've never been taught how to fight. Sometimes we avoid the fighting because we've got an ulterior motive, which is if I don't fight, then that means I get the opportunity to have sex later on. The other thing is that you just really don't know what to say, and you don't really know, you don't like confrontation maybe. That was my fault. I didn't like confrontation. I don't like to be in a place where there's these awkward conversations. But those are necessary for you to find your boundaries, because a large amount of guys that I speak to who are in a sexless relationship, they have not created boundaries. And rightly so, because they've believed Hollywood, they've watched all these films, these romantic films, and they're all made for women, by the way. They're not made for men, or as a signal for men of what to do, because it doesn't work that way. In real life, if she says something that you don't agree with, if she says, for example, like, I kill babies, for instance, most guys would probably agree if there is sex at the end of it. Whereas some people with integrity will say, no, that's terrible. Why would you do that? It's a terrible example. I'm so sorry for that. But you know what I mean? That there's certain things that somebody can say and certain values that they might have. I think the recent... Okay, so we had an argument with my wife about transgender athletes. And it's something that isn't important to her that much. It's not important to me that much. But I'm getting my point across. It got a little bit heated, but it was just intelligent conversation. You was coming up with her intelligent points about it. I was coming up with my intelligent points about it. And I think at the end, she sort of saw my point of view and she agreed with me. But she had sort of pointed out that, no, that's wrong. You're sexist and you're homophobic. And she used those words. And that's sort of words that people in those circles use in order to get their argument across. But my point of view was, if a guy has had a period of secreting testosterone and then they've gone up to about the age of 18, there's no reason why they should be playing rugby with women, because the level of aggression an 18-year-old can bring to a rugby match who was once a guy is completely different to a woman, and it can be absolutely dangerous. And I think she saw my point of view that, yeah, it could be actually dangerous and there's no business for that to be happening. There has to be a better way of all of that. And that's not what I'm trying to point out. What I'm trying to say is that it was a discussion where she could see my point of view and see that it wasn't the fact that I'm putting down women that are trying to transition. That was not what I'm trying to put it down. What I was putting down was the safeguarding of a game that I love, which is rugby, and people that are playing in girls that are enjoying it that could be potentially harmed. And when she saw that was my point of view, then she was more likely to. And this is what I'm trying to say, that was one example that I can remember off my head. But there's other things that we've talked about that I probably want to keep private, but also that is very important. So sometimes it's to do with sex, like what is going on. So most people, they when they talk about sex within the relationship or the lack of sex, they come with this baggage. So I call it baggage because they come with all this resentment, all this fear of rejection, this feeling of unwantedness and unloved. And then they just sort of dump it on the other person. Said, "Oh, I talked to them about it," and it's almost like you're trying to transfer this energy to them, and then by transferring it, you feel like you've made momentum. But it's not momentum, and this is not what I'm saying. This is not argument. This is not fighting, because that's what it ends up being. Because that person ends up feeling a little bit, like you're dumping on me all of this shit, so I want to try and defend myself. So they end up pointing out shit that you've not done or things that you lack as well within the relationship. So it becomes this mudslinging match, which is not what I'm talking about. This is not what I'm trying to put across. What I'm trying to put across that is there's certain values that you shouldn't allow it to maybe be disrespectful. Neither should a man should be disrespectful to a woman. But there's certain things, the way you stand your ground, like I didn't really like what you said to me there. That's uncalled for. And then, I would never say that to you. So I don't think you've got any right to say that. And just catch them on that point, and then call them out on it. And again, that sets a point of boundary. If they want to defend themselves and continue pushing on, then you stand your ground. Like, I'm not going to accept you to talk to me in that manner because it's disrespectful. And the major part about it is that I guess you have to be stoic about it. And this is one of the things that has been a game changer for me. Being stoic, meaning that when that situation arises where somebody is being demeaning and being disrespectful and really calling you names maybe, and that's what she's used to doing, having to be able to keep a cool mind. Don't get upset and then don't drag it out for the rest of the day. Being stoic means that you just take it all as it is. You point your point across with facts, and at the same time, you being fair. I think sometimes when we argue, we want to win so bad, we make it so unfair for the other person, and you win, but it's kind of like taking, candy from a baby. It's like, is it actually a win? It's not a win. So sometimes it's one of those things that most people avoid, these awkward conversations, and some of it could be, why is it that you don't want to have sex? Just asking that question is very awkward. It elicits a lot of raw emotions and very negative stuff that might come from her part. And then why is it that you're asking me this? Why is it that it's always about sex that you're talking about all the time? Why is it that this is the only thing that you're thinking about? And you have to be able to stand your ground and say, I'm talking about this because this relationship is important to me, and this relationship is important to me, and it's something that I feel we need to talk about because we don't do that more often. And that's how you're now trying to find your boundary at that point. It is going to be shit conversation because she's now going to sling on the fact that you're unromantic, maybe, and she can, if you put her under enough pressure, and this is from personal experience, speaking to a lot of guys about this, they get told about how they do not go down on her, how they've not been very satisfying, how they've been, and some part of it is partially true. She's probably held it back because she was trying to massage your ego, but now because you've sort of put it out in the open, she feels like, okay, I'm not going to be out here by myself, so you're going to come out. And again, this you learn. So for instance, if she's lacking the desire to be in that situation in terms of having passionate encounters, maybe it's because you don't want to go down on her. So if she tells you, then you have to start self-reflecting and thinking, well, why do I not like to go down on her, for instance? And that's something that you now start finding in yourself. So now she's found boundaries for you and she's now stretching them. And this is what I'm saying, is that when you do go through the fighting, it's not comfortable, but it pushes your boundaries. And as long as it's factual and it's fair, you start finding, where you are in terms of being your positions. And the key part about it is that you don't have to agree for you to move on. You have to probably agree to disagree, which is perfectly fine, because then that's your boundary that's been established. So again, I think that's the other things that everybody's really looking to be on the common page. Like, my wife wanted me to be on her side in terms of the transgender, that she would stand up for them, and then I wanted to be on my side. I did get my point across, and then she sort of saw where I was coming from. But when we looked at it in total, I was looking out for the safety of the women, and she was looking out for the rights for transgenders, which is completely two different arguments. And that's her thing, and this is my own thing. So we didn't have to agree on something, but we had our own beliefs, and we got to a point where we got to see different point of views. And this is why it's beautiful to actually get into those arguments or fighting. And as long as it's, again, respectful, it's fair, you're not demeaning the other person, you're not trying to bring them down, and you're not trying to guilt trip them as well or shame them. Those are the things that make it dirty and really doesn't resolve anything. It just creates even more issues. So this has been a longer episode than I would like. Hopefully you've got a ton of information from this. If you want to learn more on these skills of really negotiating and really speaking your points across, go to www.deadbedroomrevival.com, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys over there. You get a piece of training, and also you get a link to your Facebook group where we'll be delivering more training. So I've had a few requests to come to the Facebook group. I'm going to let the people in. I'm setting up a little training that I'm going to be doing over there. So I'll be seeing you guys soon. Thank you. Take care.